I've got greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes. You love it! Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. A special guest, Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us, with a special other guest who chooses to not be on the podcast, went and saw a movie at our local Regal Cinema theater, and now we're going to talk about it in Matt's Honda Pilot, in the parking garage right next to the theater. And we're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you snack during it? Should you hold off? Should you bring a date? Could you bring your kids? I don't know. We're going to talk about all of it or none of it. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, welcome to another episode. We saw a holiday-themed movie this week called Thanksgiving. This is a movie where people get killed. It brought joy to my heart. That's just a preview.
You're thankful for it.
Tim, who's in this movie?
I would actually say there's only a couple of people that are known names. You have Patrick Dempsey, plays the town sheriff. He's mostly known for, he really came to fame as McDreamy, I think was his nickname on
I don't know.
Anatomy.
He's either McSteamy or McDreamy. I don't know.
Like
I never watched
it.
it.
On a medical show, but then I'd say probably his biggest movie was he was the male lead of Disney's Enchanted. And then,
Come on, You Can't Buy Me Love?
Yeah, that was good too. And then Gina Gershonz shows up in this. She's been in a lot of movies over the years, but shows up in it for a cup of coffee. And then that is about it. It was a very young cast of people I do not know.
Oh, the dad was the guy from Suits.
Yes, a character actor. I don't recognize. Yeah, I don't know.
I only recognize him from Suits.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Not that I even watched that show.
Nope.
But you know enough.
I see enough to know that he's in there.
Yes.
I mean, and I guess a name-wise,
Lewis, I think his name.
This was directed by Eli Roth, known for his horror movies over the years, like Hostel and.
That's right.
That's fine.
And he's an actor.
And he's been in stuff too. Usually his own stuff.
Well, okay. So we've got a cast of characters here. What is this movie about? Well, this movie is about, the setup is we're in Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is a great place for a Thanksgiving themed movie, and we go through the whole setup for this movie. Is there's this kind of chain, not even a chain, but like a discount store, and they kind of play up the Black Friday crowds gathering, and there's like a massacre where people get trampled and stuff like that. And then we fast forward 1 year after that happens, and somebody in a mask starts going around killing people and does this elaborate thing where he's streaming stuff on the internet, and like he's taking to task certain key elements of people who displayed some kind of bad behavior in the riot from the previous year. So, and focusing very heavily on the family that owns the discount store, big box store, whatever it's called. And so then it's kind of a battle to the death, try and figure out who the killer is. No one knows who the killer is. We don't know who the killer is, so we're trying to figure it out as the killer is dancing his way using many many Thanksgiving-themed weapons to dispatch the cast of characters. And yeah, we come up to the end. There's a big reveal, and that's the movie. So, Todd, how is your stomach feeling after this delicious thriller, horror, whodunit movie, Thanksgiving? What does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that I enjoyed my time in this movie. I mean, a horror movie is only going to get so high of a rating for me because, I'm not the biggest horror guy, but I had a fun ride during this movie. It hit all the points that I wanted it to for a movie like this, really. And I thought, so I kind of thought we were going to go in and it was going to be more of like a Scream type movie, but I was pleasantly surprised that it's more like a I Know What You Did Last Summer movie. I think it pulled heavily from that franchise. I think there was only 2 movies, and I thought that was like pretty genius because it's not something that's ever been revisited besides those 2 movies. In it's not like a direct copy, but it's very formulaic of that kind of movie, and I was just pleasantly surprised by that. And I thought, the cast is like all relatively young, and I think people did fine. I don't think there's any kind of absolute stellar performance in this movie, but everyone pulled their weight as much as they needed to, I would say. And I thought what I enjoyed, because I was like, knowing this is Eli Roth, and typically in his other horror movies, he can get very, very gory, and it can be very realistic gore, and it's like, that stuff turns my stomach. I felt in this movie, it was a mixture. You got a little bit of like, times where you're like, ooh, I don't know about this, but then everything else was like, played to a more, I would say, fun slasher film opposed to his other movies. So I dug it. It's not the best film in the world by far, but I thought it hit the points that it needed to for me to enjoy myself. I certainly don't regret seeing it, which is a nice battle to win for our podcasts. And if you're any kind of a horror fan, I think this is probably for you. Like, if you don't like horror at all and you typically steer clear, you're not going to see this movie anyway. So I think the people who we should say see this movie is the people who are probably going to see it anyway. I thought it had the reveal of the whodunit is probably the biggest negative to me. Not that I feel like it fell flat, but it was kind of like I had a first pick, and then who actually did it was my second pick, and I think I was pushing my first pick forward in my mind because I didn't want it to be my second pick. But even though I felt like that was probably a little bit of a negative, I still thought it was fine. It didn't take me out of the movie, and there wasn't a point where I was like, let's wrap this movie up, I'd like to go home. Like, I was kind of enjoying the ride. Is it the best thing I've ever seen? No, but for a slasher film, I was there. I enjoyed it. It did everything it was supposed to do. So it ticked all the boxes for me. So yeah, if you like horror, go see it. If you're on the fringe about it and you just want to go and experience some crafty killing, then go for it. I enjoyed it. So that's me. Tim?
Guys, I think I should confess something as we start my review and my gut reaction here. I have never cared for anything Eli Roth has done. This continues that trend. I did not enjoy myself with this. I wanted to. The idea seemed okay. I've seen the Grindhouse trailer that inspired it. This is not my genre. I don't mind horror movies that are fun or clever or even just scary. But the over-the-topness for me didn't work because it was so cartoonish with such a foreboding villain that they were trying to create. That was a real villain with real motivations. But then the killing was so cartoonish that it wasn't satisfying, because also all the characters in this movie were terrible people. And I didn't identify with anything, and maybe I'm not supposed to, but I might be the killjoy here, but I didn't find myself like enjoying it like I was supposed to. The deaths were supposed to be clever and ooh, look at that, and I just was like, okay. And this did not work for me on any level. I thought the acting was pretty bad. I thought the lead actress has one face, and that's what she went to. I don't know, this whole thing did not work for me, and I'm probably not the target audience anyway, but I don't get it. Matt.
Matt is the target audience.
I am the target audience.
I know I'm going to be the outlier here, and that's fine.
Yeah, so I like horror movies. I like slashers especially, And if you give me a slasher where there's some interesting ways that people are carved up, are diced up, and especially if it's done in a over-the-top comical way almost, that is my sweet spot of the type of horror movies that I like. If you go too far into torture stuff, you're going to lose me. But this is, in my opinion, the one... Let me stop myself. But
sure I'm ready to hear you.
In my opinion, this is a very well done specimen of the type of horror movie that I like. So, Todd, you said it. Is it a great movie as we compare it to all other movies in the world? No, it's not. But is it a good example of a campy horror slasher movie with some interesting deaths? Yes. And was there a little bit of trying to figure out who the killer actually is? And, Todd, you didn't figure it out, which is, you're usually pretty good at that. And I didn't figure it out either until very close to the end of the reveal. I do agree with you, Todd, that the reveal itself was a little bit weak as these things go. But, the tools that were available were used, and that part of it was a little bit predictable. But overall, I enjoyed myself greatly. I cackled at many of the deaths in the movie, and I would recommend it to anyone who is a fan of the horror genre, especially if you like slashers and interesting deaths. I thought this had all of those elements, and I enjoyed myself greatly.
I like hearing everyone talk. It got me curious on the kind of horror movies that Eli Roth does, and I haven't seen a lot of them, but I don't really think he's known for whodunit horror movies. They're more just typically like, I mean, in my little experience with him, it's just more about he does more realistic gore, like that sickening kind of stuff that's not really up my alley.
And there wasn't a lot of that in this.
No, but it sprinkled a little bit in. It made me uncomfortable at times, but it didn't push me over the edge. All right, getting down to the old nitty gritty here. How many? I'm trying to think of my favorite death, but I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm just gonna say, how many axes would you give this movie? An axe is primarily used in this movie, but I don't think there's actually one axe kill in this movie. It's primarily used, but I can't remember where it's actually used to kill someone. So 0 being the worst, because then you have no axes and no swinging and no death, and that's just no fun. 5 being the best, because then you could have 5 killers, and that's just a crazy amount of killers right there. Matt?
Well, like I said, my gut reaction is I love this movie. Was it great as a movie? No. Was the acting kind of bad, as Tim alludes to? Yes. But I wasn't there for any of that. I was there to have a good time. I did have a good time. And like I said, I think this is an exemplar of the genre. And I'm going to come in with 3.7 axes out of 5.
Nice. Tim?
Yes.
Bring down our rating points here.
I'm fully willing to say that yes, this is for a certain audience, and the audience that wants this kind of movie will probably love it, like you, Matt. But as a general moviegoer, speaking for them and myself, this is not my cup of tea. So I will only give it a 1.5.
1.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed myself. I had a good time. Are there things I would change about it? Maybe. But, it was a nice hour and, 30, hour and 40?
145.
Yeah, not too bad. That's the amount of time you want to be in a movie like that. So I'm going to land on a 3.2. I enjoyed myself. I would probably recommend this movie to horror movie or slasher movie fans. And I'm interested, and we will watch it right when the podcast is over, to watch the original trailer for Thanksgiving, which is, for those of you who don't know, this movie came about because in 2007 a movie came out called Grindhouse, which was 2 movies done by 2 different directors at the same, like not at the same time, but one played after the other. So the 2 directors were Quentin Tarantino and Rodriguez.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Robert,
that's right. So then in the middle of those 2 movies, during the overall movie, they played 3 trailers during that movie. And so far 2 of those trailers have been made. This is the second one. So we'll have to see if we get the 3rd trailer, which I believe was Werewolf Woman of the SS, if I remember correctly. So, including a character played by Nicolas Cage called Fu Manchu. So,
Oh dear.
I hope we get to see that, since apparently they're taking their sweet time to get these out. So,
well, you should mention the other movie, which was a fun ride, Machete.
yeah, sorry, Machete was the first one. This is the second one, and then we'll see if the next one makes it or not. So, that's about it.
That's it. Thank you for that tidbit, Todd. Well, any other thoughts before we close out this edition of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies?
If you see the movie there, dear audience and listeners, comment on social media, what was your favorite kill?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know that.
Yes, I know what mine was.
So far, no one has responded to these requests when I say comment on social media, but hey,
Yeah.
Someone's going to cross the line at some point, and that's going to open the floodgates.
That's
so I'm
right.
looking at you. Whoever's listening right now that says, hey, that could be me. It could be you. Do it.
Yes. So, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed the movie Thanksgiving, and we gave it an overall rating of 2.8 axes out of 5. And so that's slightly above average, but I would heavily encourage you to see this if you're a horror buff. It's worth your time, it's worth your energy, it's worth your monies. Go see it in theaters. It'll be fun. See it on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah.
Stay in the spirit of the holiday and watch a slasher film on Thanksgiving evening. So if you're listening, keep listening, subscribing, downloading, and please comment on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the only 2 genres so far that we've ventured into. Thank you for being a listener. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.